Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. We've got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing Gothenburg beers. It's just a bit of a channel tradition, as you'll know if you've watched for any length of time. But for this review we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel many times before. This must be review number 30 or so that I've done involving them, and this is a beer that I think will be really quite interesting. It's a new version of one of their signature styles that they do, but this one is just a little bit different actually. So for this review then, we are going to go to OO Brewing once again, and today we're having a taste of the Ichor Citra Double IPA. So this one comes in at 8% ABV, and from what I understand this one is a New England hazy type IPA. This one, it's single hopped with Citra, but in that regard it is a little bit different, and we'll come to that a wee bit later in this review. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and hopefully it turns out to be another very interesting beer from OO Brewing. So yeah, this was released as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 1st of December 2020. From what I understand, it has been available for a wee while through glassbanken.se, but yeah, I think there is another version of this one out now called the Ichor Mosaic as well actually, so perhaps this is a new series of IPAs that they're going to be introducing over the next little while. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out, as I say, and fingers crossed we see a few more from this series at some point in the near future. So yeah, let's go for it then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from OO Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about OO Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So OO Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the Swedish west coast, and the company was founded back in 2011 by Olaf and Ole Anderson, who are childhood friends, and it takes its name from them. O for Olaf, O for Ole. There you go, OO Brewing. But for many years these guys were also avid home brewers, and they've been very interested in beers since a very young age. Apparently Ole was heavily involved in the Gothenburg beer scene since pre-drinking age. He was the original head brewer at Stigbergets Brewery, of course, and this is where the OO beers were originally produced up until about 2017. While Ole does the brewing side of things, Olaf manages the business side of the brewery. He was working for quite a while in Copenhagen at a marketing agency, if I remember rightly, but he has moved back to Gothenburg now from what I understand, so both of the guys are now fully invested in OO Brewing. This brewery basically started as kind of Ole's side project, I guess, back in the early days, and then Olaf was also quite involved as well, but now they are committed to it full time, and it's operating kind of full tilt at the moment actually, which is pretty good. But Ole stayed in April of 2017. Ole left Stigbergets Brewery, and at this point he invested his time fully in the OO company, and they invested in their own brewery in the Hisingen area near the Tingstedt Bridge in Gothenburg. And this place is equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, which means they can brew up to 500,000 litres of beer per year. In the first year operating in this place they produced around 100,000 litres, and they're planning to expand it up to capacity over the next few years. Apparently in 2019 they brewed around 300,000 litres of beer per year. I'm not sure if they have managed to grow it even further over 2020 because of the whole COVID-19 situation, because obviously that is going to affect their exports a little bit. But as of December 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced in the region of 70 different kinds of beer. So yeah, a very prolific brewery, these guys, mainly known for their kind of New England hazy IPAs. You know, Ole Anderson was the one who created both the Narangi and the Amazing Haze. And also the original GBG Beer Week beer back in 2016, if I remember rightly. So yeah, Ole Anderson is a very highly regarded brewer and the creator of these three kind of classic Swedish New England IPAs. Probably my favourite beers that I've had under the OO Brewing name though would be the Muscles and the Evergreen. Those were more West Coasty type IPAs, but those are awesome. The Rangi, of course, is a great beer that I would always recommend. Every year they release the Arctos and the Long Boil Barley Wine, which are definitely worth checking out. The Imperial Stout is the Arctos, of course, and yeah, they do some really interesting lager beers as well actually. The Ectopils is one, the Pivot Pils is another very good beer. So yeah, these guys, when they try a different style of beer, they tend to be very good at it. But probably the best IPA and probably the best beer I've had from these guys throughout 2020 would be the Charismatical double IPA. That one was really quite good in my opinion, probably the best all year. But yeah, a very good brewery, these guys, and one that I would always recommend you check out if you are particularly interested in Swedish craft beer. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about OO Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of those different beers that they've done so far. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So yeah, like I told you at the start of the video, this particular beer is called the Ichor Citra Double IPA, comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is single hopped, but it uses 3 different kinds of Citra hop. So it uses whole cone flowers early on, then they add pellets to it for the dry hopping, and they also put some cryo oil in it as well actually. So yeah, this has 3 different kinds of Citra hop additions to it actually. So whole cone flowers, pellets and cryo. So yeah, it should be really interesting to see how that turns out. I don't know what the main difference between the hop flower and the pellets would be, of course. I think the pellets make the flavours a little bit more concentrated, if you like, because of the increased surface area, but the cryo oil I've found in other beers makes the flavours come out as a little bit more juicy and oily, if you like. It does give the beer a little bit more of a kind of slick mouthfeel actually. So yeah, I've got an idea of what the cryo is going to do, but I'm curious just to see how all 3 of these things combine actually. But yeah, 8% New England Double IPA, single hop with Citra. I think this should be pretty damn interesting. It's definitely the first beer of its kind actually that I've come across so far. But there you can see gold top on this one, and as I said, apparently there is a mosaic version of the Ichor as well. But if this is another kind of mini series that OO Brewing are going to do, I think this could turn out to be very interesting. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. 440ml can. I think I paid like 50 or 55 Swedish kroners for this one through Systembolaget. So that is like maybe, yeah, €5.50, about £4.75, £4.50, something like that perhaps. And then I guess about $6, $6.25 American. So yeah, just to give you an idea of the price of this one. Quite a good price actually through Systembolaget for what it is. But yeah, I think that's maybe just a bit more than 2/3 of the beer into the glass there, and that should do for having a first look at the taste and aroma and things like that. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely, this is quite a rich orangey yellow colour. This one you can see it's poured with a solid finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head. I wouldn't describe that as being perfect white. There's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. There must just be 1 or 2 little specks of dirt on the glass, even though I rinsed it and washed it pretty much right before the video. It happens. But yeah, you can see a few little bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head there, and overall I have to say it does look pretty damn nice actually. So yeah, you can see the colour of this one really kind of rich, orangey leaning yellow colour. This one, I would describe this as being a little bit more like a very rich kind of mango juice, a mixed kind of tropical fruit. Remember, the 2 things that affect the colour of your beer is 1, the type of malt that you use, and 2, the length of the boil. This beer, in terms of its level of haze, I would say that this one is pretty damn hazy, but not the haziest I've seen from an 8% New England Double IPA. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see the beer is pretty opaque, but as I say, not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England doubles that you're going to come across actually. But yeah, certainly looks like a very nice beer, this one, and I'm very curious just to see how this turns out. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance, but this one certainly does look very, very nice. It certainly looks the part for a New England double. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Very, very curious about this beer, like I said. So yeah. Ooh, that does smell very, very nice. So yeah, it smells like a very, very smooth and very slick beer, I have to say. And like I said earlier, my experience of the cryo is that they tend to make the beers a little bit more oily and slick in the mouthfeel. So we'll see if that comes out in the actual. Flavour of the beer, if you like. But yeah, the aroma of this beer, I think, is really, really quite nice. But we'll focus on the malty side of things first. Straight away with this beer, you can smell that lovely, smooth, white bready character out of it. You do get a little bit of the smoothness and sweetness out of the oats, in fairness as well. You can definitely get a little bit of that out of this one, but you can also smell just a little bit of a wheaty bitiness, actually. So yeah, when you take the aroma in quite deeply with this one, there is a nice little bit of a kind of wheaty, bitey character that comes out of the beer. I'd say that overall, though, the malt base strikes me as being quite soft and bready, but then there's also a nice little bit of a kind of oaty smoothness comes out of it, actually. I really like how that side of the beer goes together. But yeah, lovely soft white bready base to this one, smooth oats, then just a little bit of a wheaty bitiness. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to say about this one, to be honest with you. It's a very straight, it strikes me as being a very straight shooting malt base. The oats come across as nice and creamy. You do get a wee tiny hint of that kind of butter candy type thing, that Werther's Original type aroma in the very middle, in the middle of the nose. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward in terms of its malt base, and the focus, of course, on a double IPA like this should be on the hops. Actually, beers like this are very good for hop education, as I've said to you before, and as you've seen me review on the channel a number of times. These guys have got the 100 series, the single hop IPA series, and also the 50/50 series, which are great for hop education. But yeah, hoppy side of things then. This one has a nice little touch of earthiness to it. There's a good little bit of floral aromaticity in there. The floral aromaticity is quite interesting in this one because it comes across as being a little bit wetter almost, and again, I wonder if that's the cryo in this beer. So I do wonder, maybe you don't get some of the dustiness. If you've got the cryo in there, maybe you don't get the kind of dustiness that you would normally get from the pellet dry hopping and things like that. So there's a wee bit of a hoppy, kind of dusty quality that comes out that normally comes out of that, but it comes across as more kind of wet and slick in this sense. So nice kind of deep floral aromaticity to the beer, a bit of lighter grassiness, and then of course we're on to the whole fruity side of things with this one. So yeah, this one again is quite characteristic of what you would expect with Citra, and to be honest, if you're watching this video, I'll be assuming you are pretty familiar with Citra. I mean, Citra's got a lovely kind of mango-y note to it, and this is the really interesting thing for me. With New England IPAs, I often find that the fruits come across as a little bit more kind of soft and juicy, if you like, whereas if you put it in a more kind of caramel-orientated malt base, such as you would get with a West Coast IPA, for example, the fruits come across as a lot more oily. The cryo is really giving it a little bit of that almost West Coasty oiliness, to be honest with you. So the mango that you get out of this beer really does come across as quite oily, and it comes across as a wee bit more pungent as well, I would say. But yeah, there's a few kind of apricot-y flavours in this one, as you would normally get from Citra, and I do get quite a bit of kind of gooseberry out of this one, actually. For me, there's quite a bit of a gooseberry element comes out of this beer, maybe a wee touch of lime too. But yeah, the mango, as you would expect from Citra, does kind of dominate the fruity side of the beer, but you do get those papaya and apricot-y notes in it that you would always associate with Citra as well, and then right at the front of those you get a wee bit of a more gooseberry and slightly stronger citrusy limey character out of this one. So the whole fruitiness though just smells a little bit more oily and kind of slick, if that makes sense. It's quite hard to describe that. It's more, you get all the aromas that you expect, but the way they come out is quite different in this beer compared to, for example, the 100 Citra that these guys did before. But remember, the 100 Citra is a 6.5% single IPA, not an 8% double IPA. Like this one, of course. Both are New England, I should say, as well. But yeah, I think this one should be pretty cool, actually. But yeah, I do like the artwork on this as well, the kind of Greek pillars sort of thing. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. I think this one is going to be both very nice and really quite interesting to try. So yeah, this one is the Ichor Citra, a double IPA, New England IPA, coming in at 8% ABV with whole cone citra flowers, dry hop pellets and cryo oil added into it. This should be a little bit of a beast, but yeah, let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah. That's a pretty damn nice beer, I'm just going to say that straight away. Stupidly drinkable for an 8%er, but you know, a lot of the OO beers are like that. You can sit and just sip on these all day. It's one of the things about these New England IPAs is I think the New England IPAs cover their alcohol a little bit better than the West Coasters used to. The West Coasters, you could tell they were a bit more sort of boozy. Now, I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe when you're at 8%, you do want to know, yeah, this is a double IPA, and you can tell because of the level of maltiness you get out of the beer. But at the same time, the drinkability is just kind of crazy in these things for sure. But yeah, I'm going to say straight away, big thumbs up to OO Brewing on this one. They've pulled off another very, very solid beer in this case. I'm not surprised at this point. I've had some really, really great beers from OO Brewing over the years. What I would say about this one compared to some of the other ones, this is definitely one of the kind of smoother, more oily and more slick IPAs that you're going to find from them actually, but it's very, very well executed in my mind. This is really, really nicely done. So yeah, if you're a fan of Citra hops, you are most definitely going to enjoy this one. I would be very curious to see how this turns out with different hops. I'd love to see them do an Enigma one. It's a beautiful hop, that very similar to Nelson Sauvin. It's from Australia, except it's got a little bit more red fruity character to it. I'd love to see them do an Ichor Nelson Sauvin. That would be very, very interesting actually. But yeah, I do wonder if this is going to be another kind of series of IPAs that they do going forward, along with the 50/50s and the 100s and stuff like this. Because like I say, they do have a mosaic one that's out on Glassbanking just now. But yeah, this is a beautiful IPA. So thumbs up to OO Brewing once again with this. Try this beer for yourself and just see what you think. And it is kind of how I thought it was going to be. It's a very oily, very, very slick New England IPA. But yeah, let's try and just break this beer down and describe this one for you here. So I mean, straight away with this beer, you get that lovely soft white bready quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. When you go towards the back, in the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate, you can feel that lovely smooth breadiness there. It's got a lovely kind of oaty smoothness in the middle third of your palate, and that just blankets the whole thing. And then when you go towards the back third of your palate, actually, you do get a little touch of wheaty bitiness there on the back third of your tongue. You can feel it does thicken up very, very slightly on that back third of your palate, but again, it feels very, very smooth and very, very slick as you come further forward. And then when you move into the middle third of your palate, it thins down a little bit. Then on top of that kind of smoothness in the middle of the palate, you just have that nice kind of Werther's Original sort of candied, slightly candy brown sugar coming out of this one there, that sort of butter candy type thing. The malt base in this one, it's almost like silky in the same way that you're going to get from some of these, you know, Imperial milk stouts and stuff like this. This beer has that same level of smoothness to it. I don't think this has got dextrose or anything else like that in it. I mean, it just says corn or havre malt, so yeah, it's just basically yeah, it is basically just barley and oat malt in this one. And I'm surprised it doesn't have a bit of wheat in it, because I do get a wee bit of an almost bitiness at the back of the palate. But in fairness, the smoothness that it has there really makes sense, and I can see that that would build a good bridge with the whole kind of cryo hop idea actually. So yeah, this is just a ridiculously smooth New England IPA. It's very simple actually in terms of its flavour composition. To me, this is one of the ones that's just really, really well executed actually, and you can't knock them for that at all. You know, this is, I think by no means is this the kind of craziest and quirkiest of IPAs that you're going to come across from OO Brewing, but I think it's just it's one of another like extremely solid one actually. It is a bit of a level up on some of the 50/50s and the 100s that I've had in recent times actually. So yeah, a big thumbs up to them for this. But as I say, this is probably the smoothest and the slickest New England IPA I've had from these guys thus far. But I don't think it tops the Charismatico. I don't think it tops the Charismatico actually. But yeah, it is just lovely, that lovely malt base straight up. So yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, Back corners of the palate, there is a wee touch of earthiness there, and that earthiness, it does spread forward a wee bit. It becomes a wee tiny touch herbal, but then very quickly it becomes more kind of floral and aromatic, and the kind of pungency of the floral aromaticity increases as you move further forward towards the kind of front corners of your palate. So yeah, I really like how that goes together. Actually, the beer, it does almost have a tiny little touch of spiciness to it, but as I was saying, I think the cryo really shines in this one and just gives the beer a really slick character, to be honest with you. This one, it actually doesn't really feel bitter at all, to be honest with you. That's the strange thing about it. It's so slick and so smooth, it just does not feel bitter in the slightest. I mean, in fairness, when you take it in, there is a wee bit of bitterness just on the kind of edges of the palate, but then it very quickly fades away and just becomes really mellow and really very smooth rather than anything else. Yeah, it's a lovely beer though. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, but at 8%, you know, it is, you know, ridiculously drinkable for its alcohol percentage. But yeah, front third of your palate, as I always say, this is where you get that really nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters come out of the beer. So yeah, on that front third of your palate, you can just feel them rolling out. If you go towards the back of the front third of your palate, it's got a little bit more of a slightly passion fruity kind of thing to it, just a little bit of a stronger passion fruit. Then it becomes a wee bit more mango-like as you go further forward. Then you start to get the kind of softer, you start to get a few of the kind of softer, how would you say, you get a wee bit of those kind of softer, like, you know, apricots, papaya, these kind of lighter, softer tropical fruits. And then on the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's a wee bit more kind of oily, you know, like a little bit gooseberry-like, maybe even a little touch limey, to be honest with you. So I really like how that side of the beer goes together in this one, actually. So a big thumbs up to OO on the fruity side of this one. I mean, it's classic Citra. If you know this hop, it gives you everything you would want from it, but the slickness you get out of this for a New England IPA is quite almost unprecedented, I would say. It does have a bit more of the kind of slickness and oiliness and things that you would expect of a West Coast IPA. So maybe that's why I like this one so much. I'm a huge fan of the West Coast IPAs. So yeah, lovely beer, this one, and as I say, it gets a massive thumbs up from me. As you go further into the aftertaste, you can feel the lovely smooth oatiness sitting there. Some of the floral aromaticity comes out, and then you've just got that nice juicy mango note and a little bit of the kind of gooseberry and slightly limey character sitting there as well. You do get a wee bit of zest on the front kind of curve of your palate with the grassiness as well, but yeah, it's a really interesting beer for me, this one, and I've certainly enjoyed it. It didn't do anything kind of unsurprising in terms of the flavour profile, but it's just the way these flavours come out actually, and the kind of mouthfeel. That's the main thing that's different for me about this one, is definitely the mouthfeel actually. So on that note, let's focus on that now. So for me, this is quite a full-bodied IPA. It's definitely one of the kind of, it's got a really nice kind of body to it for me. This one kind of right in the middle of full-bodied. Carbonation's very smooth. As I said, overall this beer really is, it's hard to decide whether I should describe it as creamy, slick or oily. It's like a mixture of all three, to be quite honest with you. This beer really has almost the same kind of consistency to it as, for example, an Imperial milk stout or some of these big pastry stouts that you're going to come across. The mouthfeel is very similar to that in a lot of ways, and I do suspect that that is the cryo coming out of this one, and I think the cryo really just gives the beer a big oiliness, and it sort of, in some way, it just kind of sits on top of the other things actually. So yeah, I really like how that side of it goes together. So yeah, it's awesome. But in terms of hoppy bitterness, what should we say about this one? You know, to me it almost feels as if this beer has like no bitterness at all, but I think it must be about 25 IBUs. There must be a bit of bitterness to this one. So yeah, it has a lovely thing, you know, it has a lovely, just a little slight touch of bitterness there, but this is very low bitterness, 20-25 IBUs, something like that. Some of the bitterness, the floral aromaticity, comes out on the side of the tongue the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, malt base, like I say, is very smooth and very kind of creamy, and you've got a nice sort of oily You've got a nice sort of just oily, juicy, fruity character comes out of this one as well. Like I say, lovely kind of oily mangoes, a little bit of a kind of, you know, a little bit of a sort of gooseberry note to it as well. It just this beer just highlights the Citra hop so well. Citra is one of the few hops I think that can stand up on its own and just, you know, be very, very complex. Idaho 7's probably one of the other ones that can do it. Mosaic, I think, to a degree can do it, but I'd probably pick a Citra, a single hop, over a Mosaic. Enigma I could see maybe doing it as well, and there's a few other hops out there that I think could hold their own in this regard as well, actually. Like Rakal, for example, from New Zealand's one. So yeah, this is a lovely, lovely beer, this, and it's definitely a very, very quirky IPA, mainly from the mouthfeel perspective, actually. So yeah, well done to OO Brewing for this one. I really, really like how this has turned out. So yeah, I would advise that you try this beer just kind of for the sheer quirkiness factor. Is it the craziest IPA that these guys have done? No, I think, you know, Charismatico I think is still the one that's on the pedestal for me at the moment from these guys. But is this a beer worth trying? Absolutely. This has got a really, really interesting mouthfeel to it in my mind. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Ichor double IPA, the Ichor Citra double IPA I should say, sorry, 8% ABV, Citra single hopped with whole cones, pellets, and also Citra Cryo in it. So yeah, really interesting beer, this one, and I've certainly enjoyed reviewing this for you here on the channel, so I hope that you guys have enjoyed it as well. Let's leave the review there. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from OO Brewing. We will return to these guys at some point in the very, very near future. We do have another 50-50 beer to review from them this month, which I think is Amarillo and Simcoe, if I'm remembering rightly. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. But you know, this is this one, you really should have a go at this and just and see what you think. But yeah, thank you again for watching my reviews. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from OO Brewing, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. The Ichor Citra double IPA, 8% ABV from OO Brewing in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Slanja, skål, cheers.